Hi and welcome back. Let's have a look at that first part of our reading and writing program. Again, we're doing this for Lou by special request. So the handwriting and VMI, or visual motor integrative portion of this, it's just a handful of exercises that you can do. As always, if we can keep a child busy, then they're more likely to do the learning with us and for us, okay? So if we can bring them to the water and make the water palatable to them, if you like, to use a broken metaphor, then absolutely they will learn. Let's make it fun for them. Let's make it engaging, challenging, without making it overly difficult and overly onerous. We don't want to make it competitive to the extent that if they get something wrong, they feel like they're overly frustrated. Encourage children just to overcome that desire to quit or to get frustrated and just keep moving. Don't even spend too much time talking about it. Just say, okay, let's just keep on going. We'll do another one, or we can try something different, okay? Or take a break. But try to avoid focusing too much on what frustrates. Let's try to make this fun, okay? And so to begin with, we're going to talk about something called haptics. And haptics is just really a matter of getting the sense of how language feels in our hands. And so I'm going to speak to my own case. I'm right dominant. So with the right hand, we learn when we're young how to form letters and how to use those motor movements guided by our vision to create shapes, and in the case of language, obviously shapes with meaning. And so we're going to look at that feeling, how to get that feeling of writing letters without actually writing letters, and that's what haptic writing is all about. And the link for this activity is shown up on your screen right now, so go ahead and have a look. You can download that, and let's go through it quickly for you. And so with haptic writing, we can see here that there is, we've got a series of patterns on the left and a series of dots on the right waiting to be filled in. And so in the very first row, we have a single loop covering 2 dots, and then we skip 2 dots, we've got another loop, and so forth. And so the idea here is to make it as simple as possible if the child needs it to be unloaded, okay? Unloading means to make it very simple. If it's too challenging, and then otherwise if it's too simple, then we need to load it. So we're going to go ahead and make it more difficult. And I'll take you through that. The easiest form of this, very simply, is to just trace over top of those letters. And so you can give them a nice colored marker, pencil, something that's kind of fun. And I would maybe use different colors for different sessions just to see how progress is going. But use something that's fairly dark, fairly pronounced, so that they can actually see what they're doing. In this case, we're just going to start on the top left. We're going to draw over top of that pattern, right over top of it, make it as accurate as you can, and you can try to challenge the child, if you like, to go a little more quickly. I don't know if I'd use a metronome for this so much, but you can tell them, you know, just try and make it as accurate as possible. That's the big thing. And then encourage them to speed up so that they're gaining speed as well as accuracy. But, you know, it's important to keep both in mind so that we're not paralyzed by trying to make it just perfect. Once again, just relax when we're doing this. Don't make it overly heavy or onerous for the child. Just a light grip, and just kind of go through it fairly steadily on the tracing, and then move through it. Cover the line that's there, in other words. So we're going to trace over top of the line. The next step, of course, is to go to the next line down, and so forth, and just have the child try to trace over these items with their hand, and it gets very complicated, and that alone is its own kind of loading. It will become more complicated as it goes through these few pages. And then again, the other way to load this up is to definitely have them go through it a little more quickly, but while maintaining that same accuracy. If you look at the next sheet, you'll find that the patterns are becoming largely more complicated just for looking at them. And again, we can follow the same idea. We're just going to trace over them. It's okay to repeat one page over and over and over again. Give that child a sense of accomplishment, okay? And then one more thing, I'm going to throw a bit of a wrench into the works. I want you to also have the child try this now with their non-dominant hand. They're not going to like it. They're going to find it really frustrating. They're going to want to stop, but that's okay. It's just to try it. And every now and then, just put the pencil in that non-dominant hand and have them give it a try. It doesn't matter if they go fast or if they're especially accurate. But being aware of the non-dominant need to struggle makes us more aware of the dominant hand and how accurate we can actually be. So actually using that non-dominant hand will help to boost the dominant hand and lead to greater speed, greater accuracy. So round one, we trace over these loops as they are, and we use the dominant hand, occasionally using the non-dominant hand, okay? In round two here, make it a little more complicated. We're going to ask the child to look at the pattern and then cover the pattern. You can cover it with the hand or with a piece of paper, and then to repeat that pattern over on the other side. And if that's too difficult, you can certainly just have them copy the pattern over without covering the original pattern, okay? Have them duplicate it on the other side, one way or the other. If they can copy the pattern while looking at it, then by all means, challenge them to copy that same pattern while having it covered up, rather. So that's haptic writing in a nutshell. Give it a try, and you do have a couple of answer sheets at the end there. You get the idea. All right, let's move on to our next thing. Hello and welcome back. In our last video in this reading series, we had a look at something called haptic writing, and that is to get the fingers used to just tracing things that could become eventually letters and shapes with meaning. Okay. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion, and we're going to extend it a little bit more on the visual motor integration. I'm going to talk about three areas in particular, and the two to begin with are very much visual motor integration, writing related, memory related. Okay, and there's some links to language here, and in the last case, we're going to talk about coding and decoding. And no, it's not programming related. That's a whole other discussion. And we can get into that another time. But we're talking about a very different kind of coding here, okay? And we'll save that for the last, and we'll get into that in a little more detail, perhaps with another video. For right now, I wanted to introduce you very briefly to something. There's different names for this, but we'll just refer to it as a Rosner program. It relates to grids and memory and drawing patterns on paper. We'll get into that shortly. It's a little more detailed than what we can do in a short video, and so for that reason I'm going to turn it into an entire class. The class is going to be on Rosner work and these grids, and you'll find that it's quite helpful. And given that we all have a little bit of extra time just to work with our kids at home, you might find it's valuable, in addition to these other things that we're going to offer you for free here. And we'll also try to offer you a coupon code for that Rosner program as well. Okay, save you a few bucks. Having said that, you can see in the background, I'm just showing you some examples of some of these Rosner patterns that we use. And in the full program, we go into some detail as to how they're used and different things that you can do with it and benefits of using this kind of work. Okay, but do look for that. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you a couple of other things. And so for right now, let's talk about letters. Let's assume that we're talking about English. And so we have a foundation of 26 letters. You need to get yourself some letter cutouts, and it could be the plastic ones, plastic magnetic ones that you can put on the fridge, or wood cutouts. Sometimes wood cutout letters are available in craft stores, but you need to get some letters, something that a child can hold in their hands, okay? There's going to be a bunch of fun things we can do with this, but let's give you just a quick, easy example. I want you to teach that child, lay out the letters on the table. You can do it in one row. All right, you can do them all in one row. You can do them in two rows in whatever order the child wants, whatever you want to do. But I want you to immediately start working with that child to lay out those letters by memory, by visual memory, by sound. I want you to say, this is the letter A and it goes first. Take that letter B, you're going to put it down, that goes next, and so forth until you get to Z. And you just repeat those sounds and you repeat those sights and you get the child to lay it out with you, period. All right, start there. Next, I want you to take those letter cutouts and you take a few of them. Maybe it's the first 4 or 5 letters. And you put them in a bag. And you have the child stick their hand into the bag and they're going to reach for the letter that you say. Alternatively, have the child reach into the bag and feel the letter and tell you what it is. And then likewise, you can have pictures of the letters on the table and they can say, okay, point to the one you think it is and start there. It's important to know that the physical interaction and the visual interaction boosts the cognitive, the memory part, and it also boosts recall. So in this video, we've reviewed briefly just some ideas around the Rosner program that we're going to make available as more of a formal course, but we also looked at just some ideas how to work that visual memory, the letter memory, how to arrange them in sequence, okay? In the next video, we're going to spend a little more time. We're going to look at some coding activities, and these are activities that are available to you for free online, and I'll show you where to get them, and I'll show you what to do with them. We'll be right back in the next video.